And let's go ahead and get into the news for today, Edu. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to share right out of the gates, or we can get into Aave.
We like to make a. Okay, yeah, it's fine. There is not so many people, so we can skip the house affairs. All right.
I'll double back to that. Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, it's all good. All right. So, the first proposal for this week it's Aave, and for folks who are not familiar with what we do here, we basically go through headlines and a little bit of your summary of news for starting the week, if you want to think about it. And basically, we run through some source of truth, like snapshot, and we take from here and there, but mostly a snapshot. So for today, we have Aave, which has a and basically it says that Aave Companies is proposing to the DAO the introduction of a native decentralized collateral backed stablecoin, GHO, pegged to the USD. With the community support, this new token, we can call it Go or something along those lines because it's GHO, can be launched on the Aave protocol, allowing users to mint Go against their supply collaterals. Go will be backed by a diversified set of crypto assets chosen at the user's discretions. If approved, the introduction of this token will make stablecoins borrowing on the Aave protocol more competitive, provide more optionally for stablecoins users, and generate additional revenue for the Aave DAO by sending 100% of interest payments on Go borrows to the DAO. So far, this proposal has been passed with 99.99%, 500k Aave tokens on this, and around 1,700 people, almost 1,800 people vote on this. And I mean, there are many stable coins, I guess, but what is interesting is that Aave is getting into the stablecoin game. What do you think?
Yeah, we've been looking at this for a couple of weeks. Obviously, I think they announced, back in mid-June-ish, the intention. I think we covered the forum post at that point in time, and it's linked up in the OneHive TV chat channel, which is just a bit north of the stage here in the OneHive Discord. We'll link to the forum post if you're interested in learning more about GHO. There's been some good sort of crypto native news on it as well, but it's just as you said, it's sort of a new, it will function, I think, as a new source of revenue for the Aave protocol and the DAO. And the mechanics at a high level, again, I'm not sort of an expert on these types of things, but I know enough to make relative comparisons, which is that the GHO stablecoin will be it exists as a collateralized, similar to DAI. So it has some similarities to DAI, has some differences, and I think that there are also some like revenue sharing mechanics here to deployment of GHO, but not surprised to see that it's got overwhelming, near unanimous support. So it has, just for people who aren't viewing this, it has over 500,000 in support and 12 Aave in opposition. So somebody just had to have fun with that, I guess. They did have, as you said, over 1,700 voting wallets, but of course, like over 75% of the Aave committed in support of the proposal came from 2 or 3 wallets. So you do sort of see that general power law distribution that we see in the snap here, but it's a relatively large number of token voters, which is cool. I mean, at least with Aave, you don't sort of assume any chicanery, like spamming that sort of thing up. Of course, it's always possible, but I think it's a sign of community health, and I'll be interested to test it out myself. I mean, I've been a long time Aave user, and excited to see this new feature.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I like the way they sort of incorporated the feedback from the community. They were like sharing a little bit about on the snapshot proposal regarding, for example, the attention to potential pitfalls around the DAO set interest rates. Also, they also talk about the importance of supply caps, the value that a peg stability model could bring, and the necessity for properly vetting potential facilitators. So I don't know. I think it seems like a very well thought proposal in general. Not only this one, but all the ones that came before. Um, so I don't know. We will see. I'm not a Aave user. I like the protocol, but I'm not an Aave user. I have a T-shirt from Aave. Does that count as a user? But we will see how this evolves.
Yes, you're doing your part to advertise. They got the best
Correct.
swag though, for real.
Yeah. Like there was this huge pink T-shirt that said on the background something something along the lines of feminism. It was in French, but it's like something around like feminism is a new strength, is a new way, or something along those lines. I felt like it's really rare to have women focused merch. So I really like that merch. So yeah, they have nice t-shirts. All right, the next one, it's a very particular one. It's the first one I see of this kind in a snapshot so far, and it's for the Lenster. Lenster, it's basically a social media app that was built on the Lens protocol. And what is peculiar of this proposal is the fact that they had 7,000 votes on this proposal. So that's a huge amount of people voting on this. I don't know where it comes from. That they have 4.5K members on their snapshot. And so I don't know. And I mean, at certain level, this was sort of voted wrongly. I guess not wrongly. The set date, the end date of this, December 31 of 2022. So it will end in 6 months. So my guess is that you have to vote in order to get the POAP that they are introducing here. What are your thoughts? Like this is like I don't see this many engagement, and not even in summer, or not even like in beer market. We see this level of engagements. Have you played with Lenster? I mean, outside the Lens protocol, but have you played with Lenster?
I have. I mean, I played around with it. I wasn't able to get one of the early, what we call it, I guess the Lenster IDs or the from the Lens protocol. I guess my handle rather. So if there's anybody in the audience who had a chance to do that, big ups to you. Lens protocol is of course related. Just from little bit additional context here, that the folks that launched the Lens protocol are the same team that launched Aave. So it definitely has this like really strong backing. I dropped a link in the One Hive TV chat channel if you're interested in checking out the Lens protocol. Specifically, then, this proposal you're referring to is Lenster, as you said. Lenster.xyz is actually, it's like an app that's built on the Lens protocol, as you mentioned, and I have played around with it a little bit, but because I don't have the handle, I guess it's just a little bit limited. Like your login, I think is limited to, like, the functionality is limited. But I know that this is what's interesting about the vote here. Well, two things I'd say. Number one, I think Lenster, I may be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's the first project to like deploy a functional app on the Lens protocol. So, I haven't looked into this specific forum discussion, but I imagine that they have like a lot of stakeholder support. But in noticing the numbers that you pointed out, so like if you're looking on YouTube right now, right, folks, if you're not 1HTV on YouTube, you can click the bit.ly link at the top of the Discord. We have everything we're talking about on screen. It's a nice visual aid there. But you said like 7,000 votes, but you notice over here it's also like the exact same, almost the exact total. So it seems like, well, you're looking at 2 to 3 votes per person. And I don't really know the mechanics of how or why that is the case, but I imagine it has to do with the NFT, like, components or mechanics of the Lens protocol.
I guess that my guess from this is that basically most of the people had 1 vote, and some of them had yes. Only only like 10 people had more than 1 vote. The rest, all of them had one only vote. So that's why there's a small disparity
Got it.
in between. But in general, it was 1 vote for everyone. That's why we got almost the same amount of voters and votes.
Well, and that's
Yeah, they
kind of
do. They do
unusual.
explain
Yeah.
that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. You're great.
Yeah. No, it's they also mentioned what you said that is the one of the first successful dApps in the Lens protocol. So I don't know. It's basically a social media app that looks like built mainly for social media. So it's interesting. I feel that we will start getting into this sort of race for which of all these products that kind of start being launched will win. Because we will see some um not competition, but we will see similar application focused kind of dApps. And it's for me, what is interesting is to see which one at the end prevails in this sort of dApp games of deploying during this time. So we will see.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you dug into like the social media, blockchain social media, app space at all? It seems as though Lens has this big head start. I mean, it's a protocol. It's not just an app, right? But I haven't dug that much into it. It's a fascinating idea, but I don't know all of what's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not big fan of social media in general sense. I'm not. I use Instagram, but just because of you know social convention. But I'm not a big fan of social media. I don't think I see how good it could be, but I feel um like places like Discord already fulfills that role. So I don't know. I'm not into trying out new things, new social media. Sorry, I think the only ones that I will probably try to use is a decentralized video streaming kind of platform. That's the only one. Um, Besides that, I don't think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think one note for what we're doing here actually is starting next week we are going to be we're going to be in Twitter Spaces. Right now, the Luke is back. We have access to that. And so we'll be sort of migrating what we're doing right here to Twitter, which I think will be good. We've been hoping to do that for about 6 months now. So I'm glad we're able to get it done. And I think that will, in general, I think, it's just a single click away, which will be good. And as far as the social media side of things, I know one of the premises, or like the part of the premise behind Lens is to integrate NFTs into a social media platform that would in some ways incentivize people to think more carefully about who they follow and the posts that they make and like the actions that they take on the social media platform, because there's going to be obviously some degree of cost to all of those things by virtue of operating on chain. I don't know, it's an interesting thought experiment. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out, if you do in fact raise the barrier to certain actions. Yeah, I think a lot of people in crypto will adopt it, but it'll be cool to see what happens in the broader space.
Yeah, I agree. We will see. Regarding and speaking about, just because we are in the same topic, have you just today I had the chance to use Common Ground, which is this kind of Discord like space, and it turned out really cool. Didn't play with it before today. I was just on a presentation of their demo, but it's quite interesting. It's very similar to Discord. They are on alpha mode at the moment, so it's a browser. You have to use your web browser to use it, but it's very similar to Discord. But you have the capacity to do chats and so on. But what is really interesting is, well, of course, it's a Web3 native Discord, so you use your wallet, and then the rest is not on chain, of course, but you can have token gated, for example, channels, and you can decide the rules of these token gated channels. For example, I can decide that only people with 1 ETH are able to see this channel. You just need to pull out the smart contract from a variety of chains. They have Gnosis, they have Polygon, and so on. You can pull out the smart contract address. You just decide the amount of the token that you gave that channel with, and there you go. You have your channel open, and it seemed like a really powerful tool, even in this alpha stage. So I would suggest everyone to keep an eye on Common Ground. I feel we are needing this kind of more transversal and integrative kind of projects, because you already have the soft onboarding on the platform. The other thing that is really nice from them is that they have the capacity to pull out from like blog posts, so you don't have to leave the app to see the blog posts or to make blog posts. So that also, it's quite a smart thing to do. So I don't know, we will see. um I'm
That's
looking
cool.
forward to see how it develops. Yeah.
Well, I would
Go
definitely say
ahead.
follow him on Twitter, everybody. This is Common Ground _CG. It's on the screen right now if you're looking on YouTube. I'd love to have somebody from their team on the show too, to chat up what they're up to. I mean, a lot of people talk about why replacement for Discord is necessary. I'm curious just to hear a little more about this, Edu, from your experience here. Like, what are the if you were to compare the two, like, what are the superior, like, one or two superior things, or just aspects of it, features that are better than Discord?
For me, it's the same idea of why would you, like, if you have a Web3 wallet, why would you have a bank account? It's the same thing. Discord, for me, it's basically the old system bank, Web2 kind of system, that you need to plug in a bunch of plugins and a bunch of bots in order to achieve what you want to achieve. And the same goes with the bank. Like, if yeah, the bank does the job for me, gets me the money that I need. But then a wallet, it seems to do it better for me, for my use case. So I think that it's the same with the Common Ground. I feel Common Ground is built for Web3, so it does the purpose for the things that we need it to work for. And you take a lot of the noise that's coming from Discord nowadays. You have this kind of Tinder feature where I can only send you a message if you follow me and I follow you, and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. I felt it seemed very well built, and they are building also an app. So it's also not something that will it's something that will be coming also to them. And what I also really like from it, and I cannot share that, in the sense of I cannot share my screen to show that, but they have this capacity to actually, sort of decide which will be the next, sort of the next decision for the product. So you can vote on what you think will be the best next feature that will be included. And I feel like it's just very Web3 kind of native thing. So I don't know. I really enjoy it. So we will start building some things on top of Common Ground, and we will see how it goes.
Sweet, man. Let's do it. I like speaking to new folks that are trying to solve real problems, for particularly for operators, in the DAO space. It's really cool. I heard this project. I don't know if it was you or somebody else. Did you meet these folks at ETHCC? Somebody else was mentioning Common Ground. I don't know if it was you, like in the last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was me. I mentioned them because I heard about them on HCC. People were talking about it, and I was not very sure, well, like, how it was or how it worked. Um, so I just wanted to check it out, and they played the demo for me today, and it's a really good app. That's all I can say.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to check it out for sure. See if we can get them on the chat. And I
Yeah,
want to touch a little bit on optimism. Is that cool if we sort of
yeah,
skip over
yeah.
to
Let's
the...
go back to yes.
All right,
Let's go
cool,
back
man.
to it. So optimism. You have we talked about this a little bit the other day, I believe. In this case, we are talking about the different proposals that they have on optimism. Um, Most of them are, or all of them are, ending on the 3 of August. And you have basically QDAO, Barnbridge, Beefy, Rocket Pool, and yeah, Rocket Pool. So you have only Barnbridge was voted um, against being used in here. And let me check how much was it voted against. It was against, wow, with a lot, 96%. Um, it was voted against Barnbridge.
Yeah, it's Barnbridge is actually a project that launched on mainnet, I think back in 2020. So that team has been around for a while. They have a functioning DApp. It's a relatively complex DeFi tool, and I haven't, don't have like a lot of firsthand using it, experience using it. But of course, it was interesting to me that they had such pronounced opposition. I'm not exactly sure why. And of course, we're not looking here at the Snap. We're not looking into the exact ask and OP that these projects have submitted on the forum. So it may just simply be a matter of dialing things back a bit here. But the main reason I wanted to share this is just I think a weekly update on this project in particular is probably worthwhile. In that you and I have discussed in the past. I think Optimism is a very not just the fact that it's an L2 and L2s are obviously now operational, and I think probably going to see a trend wave of adoption over the next couple of months. Who knows, but we'll see. I mean, we had L1s and the L2s are now fully functional and had the airdrop for OP, so it's just and they've aligned themselves with the public goods side of things in their governance structure. So I definitely want to keep tabs on this, and if you're looking on YouTube, you can see we have the Optimism Collective up on Snapshot, and you can just peruse the different projects that essentially have applied for certain OP token allocations to incentivize the use of their application. So this is in a way it is a means by which Optimus is deciding which projects it really wants to have on the L2 and which it's not so interested in. So the fact that I don't want to call it a blue chip, but a DeFi project that's been around for a while, obviously had faced some serious opposition is interesting. I've had a chance to speak with the Qidao folks directly. They're a really cool team. If people don't know Qidao, you should spend some time this week just getting to know their protocol. It looks like they're going to be launching on Optimism. They have launched on Polygon and Gnosis as well, and they offer 0% borrowing against your collateral. So they have a really cool protocol, really cool team there. So I wanted to give them a plug. And what was the last one? Just and Rocket Pool, obviously. If you're big into the ETH ecosystem, it's a great way to stake your ETH. And obviously they're going to be coming to the L2 that'll make transactions a bit cheaper.
Just to track back into the Bambridge kind of thing, you see on the forum, very particular first for a 3 million token request that will be used in 3 months, out of which 2 million will be used on an LP yield for a project that is not live on OP chain yet and no co-incentives. They went through quite a dialogue here on their forum. A bunch of people sort of talk back and they sort of answer the doubts and so on. But it seems that the core part is that they were requesting too much. And they sort of narrowed it down from 3 million to what I think was 600 OP. But yeah, like they seem not to have finished their audit of their protocol and so on. So I guess it didn't pass the consensus from the community on this case of Burnbridge.
Interesting. Yeah, thanks for that next layer down, man. I think that it sort of what it was suspect of, but it's always interesting to see exactly why things sort of hit a wall there. And I maybe they'll go back and revise it, but yeah, if you have something, I guess, that is unaudited and a big ask, those two things combined probably create a little bit of friction.
Yeah, at the end you don't have many points of validation for a project more than what they tell you in a proposal. And of course the audit is one of these point of validation that it's quite widely accepted as something that most of the projects must have live space for speculations and so on. So, and they don't have you didn't offer a time of deploying either. So I guess those were part of the red flags that people didn't like so much. And what is interesting is...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I think, and I have up on screen on YouTube, it looks like Optimism's trading a bit over $1.60. So this is, it's just a shade under $1 million in OP tokens that are being requested. And the timeline for distribution or emission is probably the better word to use here is 8 months. So, there's a bigger question of, with all these proposals, what exactly do OP holders want to see as the emission rate? $1 million worth of OP coming out into the market in less than a year is obviously pretty aggressive as well.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, the Optimism token has been going up, so that's good for Optimism in that sense. All
Are
right.
you optimistic about the price action? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I mean,
30 days.
it is what it is. So in here we also have of course the other ones that did approved were Quidao, Beefy, and as Ted mentioned, Rocket Pool, which is again we are quite familiar here with Rocket Pool on the past. So it didn't. It seems that the rest of them passed without much conflict. And yeah, I think that most of the questions in the forum were quite nice. They were not like challenging any of this. I'm checking if any of these had a different variety on votes, but I think most of them were voted up 90%. And you have a quite a also interesting, yes, all of them were voted up more than 90%. And what is also interesting is the amount of people who voted, like 8,000, almost 9,000 people voted on each of these proposals. So you have quite an engage from the Optimism community, and that's really nice. I really like that. And the next one, shall we move to Gitcoin, or do you have something else you would like to talk regarding Optimism?
No, let's do it. Let's go on to Gitcoin here. I think we got a good airdrop or potential airdrop announcement.
Yes, I see the Gitcoin DAO popcorn. I'm not really sure. I've never understood very well what popcorn does. We had folks from our community working there at some point, and so that's how they pitch. At some point, they pitch popcorn DAO to TC and to talk about token economics and so on. So I don't know. I took a look at them back in the day. And besides that, I didn't know much. Their logo seems quite similar to Curve. I think it's the logo. It's very similar to that one. Curve Finance. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's similar. It's got some multicolor going on. And we actually had the Popcorn DAO folks on, I think, maybe back in May on the show here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, familiar with some of their work, and it looks like they have here. But if you're in other words, if you're an active member of the Gitcoin community, or you've given on Gitcoin, it's all to the good here. You may be seeing some pop token in the near future.
Yes, it's correct. Here they have the definition that I was missing. Popcorn is a carbon neutral DeFi network that funds social and environmental impact organizations via proceeds from created yield generating products. We are also interested in other partnerships opportunity that could further amplify the collective social and environmental impact of our two DAOs. So we are getting in the trend of public goods and environmental situations. So that's good. And then we have Sushi. Do you want to brief us on Sushi, Ted?
Sure. I just thought I'd share a bit here. I have been trying to figure out, or just keep a bit of a pulse on what is happening in some of these, the DeFi blue chips, particularly those that were big back in 2020 that are still with us. And, Sushi, dramatic sort of ups and downs, particularly on the leadership side, as people may know if you've either been listening to this broadcast or been just following crypto in general since the bull market. And the first sort of issue, just for some context if people don't know, with Joseph DeLong, somebody worth following on Twitter. I think he's an interesting guy. I mean, not I say I'm endorsing everything that comes out of his mouth, of course, but he has some interesting thoughts, and he had a big role to play in the early stage of Sushi. But he was like hired by the company to be the CTO of the whole shebang. Let's just put it this way: the reason that I'm interested in Sushi and its story is because because it's interesting. It sort of has some, drama to it, but it's at its core, I think it is about the feasibility of DAO governance and like token allocation, distribution, the relationship between the decision making of leadership and token holders. Like there's actually a lot of very interesting, stuff to sort of debate that can be abstracted from Sushi itself about what we're trying to build here. So to the stories for this week, and I will end on this because I want to make sure we get Ghostman up to join us, Edu, and demo the quests. But essentially, they had the issue with DeLong, and then he quit and was out. And then we had the Frog Nation guy come in and his crew and try to do something. And then I think they also had a falling out. And so now there is another individual, Jonathan Howard. You can see either on YouTube or I'll link up these two forum posts on the chat channel. He put his name forward essentially for head chef, which is more or less the same sort of role as Joseph DeLong had back in the day, as it were, although he insisted on being called CTO instead. And then there is a sort of follow-on proposal, which is essentially the opposing viewpoint, and suggesting that a head chef position itself is not required and that Sushi can Can you hear me?
You're getting cut. Okay. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, both links are posted in the chat channel here. The second one is, they are chronological. So the first one is a proposal to create and fill like sort of a centralized leadership position over the DAO and the protocol. And then the second is opposition to that. So I think that for people who are sort of like governance nerds like we are and interested in how communities are solving issues of leadership, particularly in the context of a bear market and like with the historical baggage, I guess to a certain extent that Sushi has, it's interesting to read through these two proposals and just think about how communities are making decisions and how we can optimize, right, the decision-making process on things like this, and really even whether or not, projects that have billions of dollars worth of liquidity, these types of things, do they require centralized leadership for new feature development? These sorts of questions I think are interesting to debate.
Yeah, I was not aware of this complicated situation. I'm not gonna call it drama. This complicated situation. It's very peculiar. The first number that I saw, it's someone basically earning 800K annually, which basically comes to 60K per month. I don't know why would someone require 60K a month as a salary. I don't know if anyone is deserving of such a sort of payment. That's a huge amount of money. Doesn't matter what you do. I don't care what you do. That's a huge amount of money monthly. And then but that's my only personal comment on this. Besides that, there were certain things that were mentioned on the forum regarding, for example, why are you asking for consensus on this if you already have a starting date set up, knowing that it takes quite a time to build a proposal up. So that means that the decision is already made. And some of these comments that I'm reading on the forum, it's quite interesting. Some of them also mention the investor fund behind it and the pressure that the investor fund may have put into this proposal. And there is another one that it's quite worried. I don't know if it's true or not, but they went down through this person's companies. They just quote 3 of his NFT collections and how they play out, and they didn't play out very well. And some other projects that he has been involved with and how it has been the result for those projects. I don't think we should blame anyone for their past situations. But at the same time, I do believe that having a centralized figure, like head of whatever, it's something from the old system that we shouldn't have. Like we should have many heads, head chef around, not only one. Mainly because you cannot, like, the rate of burning that you will get, the amount of work you will have, and so on. It's not realistic anymore to have only one person as a CEO kind of figure. That's something I don't think works nowadays. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting question, and I agree that, you know, if you're looking at the initial proposal, you know, it's significant, you know, significant amount of capital in not only in stable coins, right, but also in this sort of vested sushi. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a large ask, which in general, I guess, you know, would provoke strong response from the community probably, but at the same time, it's also the context and the role that's being suggested, right?
Yeah, and they also mentioned the fact that there is this, like, assuming the funds for these proposals comes out of the operational multisig, which has 2.67 USDC and 250k sushi. If this guy leaves one day, he will take with him 60% of the USDC and all of the sushi, which is still 550k yet to be paid.
Right,
Another one
right.
said,
The
like, hey,
severance.
this guy, yeah, someone else said, like, hey, you're asking for 1% of the total supply to be allocated into this guy, you know, salary. So that's a lot.
It is. It's pretty wild. You know, it sort of stuck out as something I wanted to fold in, and as I said, you know, the links are posted up there. People can check it out, as well as, like we said, the sort of the answer. This all unfolded in the last week in terms of these proposals going up, or these forum discussions rather beginning. But it is marked under the proposal tag on the forum, so we'll also keep an eye on the snap and see what happens, and keep everybody up to date on the latest on the sushi side going forward as far as how this leadership question resolves.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting, regardless, regardless of the result. Um, I'm just going through a little bit of what has happened. Like in July, I'm reading a news from the Define that says on July 27th, PegBit, a Sushiswap core developer, again accused Sushi of no longer compromising a community-run project in response to Howard's proposed appointment and compensation. PegBit claimed that the project is instead governed by Arca, Cumberland, and a few other investors calling the shots with the compensations committee. I don't know. I hope it doesn't go south. Yeah, I just hope that.
I never heard of this big head club before. Like, and I just want to kind of dig in on this one fella. So we can do that another time, perhaps. But like, have you heard of Big Head Club? This NFT project. I do.
No, I haven't.
Interesting. Anyways, check in their governance process, folks. You know, and keep an eye on how it goes. That's all I got for the news
Yeah,
side
I
of things
mean,
today, man. You want to share some final thoughts?
yeah, yeah. I mean, they put this what you shared a little bit about having the centralization again, make SushiSwap centralized again, kind of proposal. And yeah, I mean, I guess my conflict with this is at the end of the day, it's hard to talk about decentralization if you have VC funds behind you, with a large amount of tokens allocated to them. Because even if you claim on the outside that you are decentralized, it's not if you have a huge VC fund behind. There is one thing. There is, of course, a decentralization on the protocol, and that could be decentralized. And there is a decentralization on the back end, let's say, like in the processes and administration and all this management, and all the internal governance processes that are the ones that seems to me are not necessarily decentralized. So I feel it's a little bit of lack of cohesion. Like, yeah, it's weird for me to have this connection between what you present to the world and how you behave internally. Because if you are behaving internally in a hierarchical, centralized manner, or control in a centralized manner, then yeah, at some point, I feel that's a point of failure for any product.
Well, and yeah, I mean, to take it even further on the opposition side of things here on the the forum, I need to think a little bit. This is just from the hip, but my initial reaction, they seem to be coming with two suggestions in lieu of a head chef. One is this sort of bounty campaign, and the other is the VE tokenomics. And without getting into like the VE tokenomics side of things, I think that bounties are a great tool, but it remains to be seen whether or not a bounty program itself can like build and maintain a protocol and deploy new features, and maybe it can. In some ways, we're going to talk about it with quests, right, in a moment here. But it's like that is a question unto itself. That has nothing to do with sushi, right? Can you? Because the other part of it is with crypto. I mean, just specifically sushi's story. I mean, they launched through a vampire attack. Right, straight up, and it is what it is. But they launched by cloning and improving and doing certain things off of the Uniswap model. And at some point, you need to make sure that I imagine the protocol has to deploy new features that are truly innovative and that haven't really been done by other projects if they want to get a lead. And like, can that happen through a bounty-driven process only? I don't know. Maybe. I'm just sort of thinking out loud here on that side of things as well.
Yeah. We will see. We will see how this goes. Are you, just as a last thing before we jump into Quest, are you happy that you will be able to not pay taxes for under 50 transactions cost? For 50 transactions under 50?
What is this for? Is this like the US? You know something about the US tax code that I don't, right, all of a sudden?
Yeah.
You're scaring me. What is it?
To basically not being taxed for transactions that cost that are below $50.
Okay. On-chain. Yeah. I'm excited. It's one of these things where when it comes to regulation, we won't get into this now, but yeah, I'm really curious to see how regulation handles privacy technology. Like, this is something that I'm really interested in trying to spend some time learning more about, because I think it's going to be a big part of the, a new wave of tech that comes into this space. I mean, it's already here, but in terms of awareness of it, and I feel like the serious adoption, or even within the crypto space, of privacy tech is going to have a significant uptick when regulations become clear. Right? Like right now, people are not as incentivized or disincentivized to use these things, and so then the question becomes like, all right, well, how is the SEC, the IRS, or whatever, how are they going to handle Tornado.cash? Right. Like, eventually they're going to have to come down with a specific answer to that, and I'll be curious to know what that all shakes out. We shall see. In the meantime, I shall continue to use our tools.
Yep. And with that, that's all I got for today. So I hope that I will see everyone next week.
Hope to see you too as well, sir. Good to chat as always. Have a good rest of your Monday and your week, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.
All right, cheers, everybody. And GM, for joining us here in the Discord. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going to take a 2-minute break here, and I'm going to bring Potrok up to talk up to, I'm mispronouncing it. He's going to set me straight when I get him up here in just a couple minutes to talk about Lighthouse Dao. In the meantime, you head over to Lighthouse.xyz, check out their app and see what they're all about. We're back to talk about Dao Rep and what they're building over there in just a few minutes. So GM, everybody, sit tight and we'll be right back. Okay, everybody. So let's go ahead and get started here with the second half of today's broadcast. Really glad to have Potrok. Am I pronouncing it right, my man? I know your name is Patrick. I don't know if you what you want to go by, but welcome to the show, man.
Thanks. It's usually Potrock, but anything works.
Hey, man. I'm down with it. Potrock.
Hey. Yeah. Nice to meet you, finally, like vocally.
Yeah, likewise. I think it was actually Doge King that sort of sent me your way to check out Lighthouse and get you on the show here. So yeah, how'd you wind up in the OneHive Discord?
So Doge King introed us, yeah, for sure. When we started thinking about reputation almost maybe 8 months ago, we kind of had a more monolithic approach to it, essentially like having some score that represented how credible you are in DeFi or how diamond hands you are. And that went through a bunch of different iterations as we started talking to different communities. And when we talked to Doge King, we were really interested about the Gnosis ecosystem and what was going on there. And he thought that we should meet a lot of people like yourself, and that really changed our ideas about how to think about reputation, and even more broadly how to think about tokens. Eduardo, who was just on, he mentioned something that was really interesting about the centralization of an organization, and that's really kind of core to how we're thinking about the product that we're building.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if you want to jump in on that. I mean, what are your thoughts on the sushi drama, such as it is here? You know, centralized leadership, big payday versus, you know, bounty approach, and how do you think Lighthouse sort of? I know we're jumping right into it, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts since you had a chance to listen to the end of the show. There.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that I know like sushi maybe well enough to pass judgment on it, but I do think that there is something to say about building towards decentralization rather than jumping right into it. I think a lot of like a lot of airdrops are generally unbalanced in the sense that they favor a smaller group of people and make them wealthier than everyone else, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's more that governance and financial value are tied together in the same token, and I think that creates a lot of problems, kind of fundamentally in terms of like how a community is able to organize. And I think that that's unfortunately, there's a lot of communities that were launched that way, and it's difficult to kind of come back on an airdrop and fix the tokenomics of it. But I think that there's opportunities for DAOs that will be created in the future and how they think about what a token means, how many tokens they need even, and what those tokens represent.
Yeah, I'd like to draw you out a little more on the the aspect of how governance and market value intersects with our many existing tokenomics models. And it sounds like you're bullish on a multi-token model for DAOs, or what are you thinking about as in terms of ways to solve that dilemma?
So I think that generally when like in a community, and this can be like a centralized organization, like a traditional company or a Web3 community, the way that value works is that it kind of takes on many forms. And of course, there's financial value in all of this. Like we all get paid salaries when we work in a company, or if we accomplish a bounty, we get paid for that. But there's all different types of value, like reputation, and those other types of value that aren't quantitative and objective and financial in nature are really difficult to put a number on, but they still exist. Like you trust me, or you might trust me because you know who I am, you know what I've accomplished, and that doesn't necessarily have a monetary value to it. So the way that we think about it is that you can still have financial value in a token and have a financial token, a native token, but you can couple those with different types of tokens. So you can say have a governance token that applies a weight to the financial token. So you can be rich and powerful in a community, but you can also have, say, a high amount of reputation and be poorer and still have the same say.
Right. I know there are a lot of DAOs that are experimenting with different reputation models. In fact, the sub DAO that runs the TV show here, we've been through a number of different iterations and thinking about how to adopt a tool that would best reflect the value of contributions over time to build reputation. And it really seems like Lighthouse is an awesome tool to explore that. So let's get into that. I'm curious, give us the genesis or origin story about Lighthouse. How did it come to be, and a little about what you guys are up to there, and then we can get into the app and walk people through some of the features.
Yeah. So I've kind of been like, I've been kind of like circling around crypto for the past 10 years. I have like a bunch of friends that have been working in it, and it was only last November that I just kind of decided to jump in. And I come from a UX and product design background. So I was working with the Aave community, they have a program called Open Web Foundry. It's sort of like a accelerator program that they run. And I was mentoring a couple of the teams that were going through that season of the program. And I met my co-founder there, and he was working on a project called Worker DAO, which was it was kind of related to bounties and how you could relate workers for their contribution in a non-financial way. And that evolved over these like several iterations into Lighthouse. And the idea, or the product now, is a reflection of like basically 8 months of research and talking to almost 100 DAOs. But the general idea is that when you think about value or reputation or however you want to cut up value, it fundamentally is composable because each DAO or each community has its own way of thinking about that. So the way that Lighthouse works is it lets you collect contributions. And so contributions can be things like work that you've done for a DAO, or maybe a tweet that you've tweeted out, or the fact that you participated in a call like this one. You can basically determine what a contribution is, and that's a really broad way of thinking about it. And the reason we do that is because to some extent, everyone wants composable reputation. They want to define what reputation means to them. And by they, I mean a given community. So by collecting contributions, what you can do is validate them and put them on chain and record them as attestations. So these are kind of like the base building blocks of value, of reputation, of governance power, of however a community wants to use them. And then they can attribute value in exchange for those. So let's say you can have scores. So you can have like 5 points for a GitHub pull request, 3 points for a tweet that was liked by Vitalik, 2 points for whatever. And you can score these things and then issue tokens against them. And these tokens can be non-transferable tokens. So those are reputation tokens or governance tokens. They can be financial value, and you can even stream financial value to people using like Superfluid. Or you can generate an NFT, which is kind of the next step of what we're working on, is like integrations into Polygon ID, Sysmo, and all these like emerging identity platforms.
Yeah, I noticed that you can. So I've toyed around with a little bit here. I'm not obviously an expert yet. I need you to help me out. I have some good questions about how to sort of set up from the admin side. But I noticed that you have Solana and Optimism and Gnosis as the 3 chains you can, or the 3, I guess, ecosystems you can connect from. And like, if we could just start there, I'm curious to know. Obviously, a lot of people would see other L1s. What led you guys to choose those 3 as the, I guess, I don't know if those were all there at the launch, but as the first 3 you guys have available?
This is kind of an interesting story, but like we first started building on Gnosis because a lot of the DAO tooling is built there. And there's a lot of reputation systems on Gnosis. You have Moloch DAOs that have their own rep token. You have Praise that just came out, I think, 2 weeks ago or so. And it's just from a philosophical angle, Gnosis is a really interesting ecosystem to build in. So that's where we started. When we kind of started getting into it, we realized that, well, on Solana, there's like nothing exists there yet. And what's kind of interesting is if you do 8 months of research on how reputation should work on Ethereum, and you go to kind of a virgin ecosystem where there's a ton of wallets and a ton of participation, it could be interesting to propose something novel there that is, pretty well adapted for Ethereum, but is maybe a lot more complete for Solana, and kind of takes the game up there really quickly. And the interesting thing is that when we try to approach Ethereum communities, what's the difficulty about building this on EVM compatible blockchains is that there's a lot of tooling that already exists, and DAOs tend to seem to want to build the tools that they want to build. So it creates a lot of stratification across the EVM ecosystem, which makes it difficult to position yourself as like the reputation tool, or a main reputation tool, or a composable reputation tool. Whereas with Solana, it's a lot easier. You're like the only reputation tool.
Got it. Well, there's a lot of people building DAOs on Gnosis chain. I know, even if there isn't the same TVL as other chains, there's a lot of interesting activity, say, in this neighborhood, I feel.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Gnosis has been probably the most inspiring chain for us, like in building all of this. People have so much experience trying to think about these problems. Like we've spoken with Matan Field, who wrote the DAO Stack paper and built DAO Stack. And it's just like getting into his mind is pretty crazy because he's thought about that. He's been thinking about this for like 8 years,
Yeah. So if you have a new DAO, or I guess on the admin side, you have an idea for a DAO and you want to experiment with Lighthouse to, on the reputation side for contributors and builders. When you first come, you got to choose your chain, as I mentioned. Obviously, you'll connect with a wallet, and then you're asked to name it. And then more or less you get to sort of the dashboard that I'm at right now. And if folks are watching on the YouTube side of things, I do have a share screen there. And so I'm able to, as an admin, basically create the DAO in the space where people will submit claims of work, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right, yeah. Do you have submit contribution on the left-hand side?
Yes. Let's see
and
here.
there's a sample.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So I've set it up on the admin side. In order to access it, say if I'm a contributor, I just need to enter the subdomain, right, of the project name, and then there's a different UI for a different wallet. Is that more or less correct?
Yeah, so you enter the subdomain and yeah, for every community you're a part of, you can connect with your wallet and you'll see the environment for that community.
Got it. Okay, so I've adjusted my wallet here, and now I'm logged in as a contributor. There are actually a few folks that do contribute to 1HTV, I think, that are in the audience here. So, folks, I'll be chatting more with you about this on Friday, but you get to see it here. We're going to definitely check this out. All right, so if they click on View Form, and then essentially, the supposition is that there are a series of, bounties or work that has been agreed upon, sort of off-chain, as it were, and then this is the point where the submission will take place, be approved, and then reputation dispensed. Correct?
Exactly, that's right.
Cool.
So this form, the simple form that you see here, is just it's like a test form. So you can, it's like really open-ended. But what we're working on right now is the ability for you to create your own form, like a Google form.
Cool.
What's cool about doing it in that way is you can kind of segment where, like, the source of a claim, we call it like the provenance of the claim.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be claims, say, for content creation, and that'll have a specific form, or marketing efforts, or anything you can think of, you can make a form for. And in the form, you'll specify the score that you would like to attribute, the maximum score that you'll attribute for an accepted claim. And then you can set up the scoring. So you can say, I want to score on a quality scale, and you'll have like a 1 to 5 rating, and importance scale, and you'll have a 1 to 5 rating. So you can decide on what scoring mechanics you'd like to apply. And when you do score it, so let's say you give a 3 for importance and a 4 for quality, it'll average and stay 3.5. And if the maximum points that you're willing to give for that is 100, then you'll get 70 points for that.
Very cool.
And then the important thing, and this is what this is still fairly early for us, so there's like pieces coming into this as we go, but it's important to us that this is a really transparent and decentralized product. So when we use the word admin, the way that we think about it is that you're a steward. So a steward is someone who manages or is able to attest to contributions. And you can elect stewards and then add them into a multi-sig. So this multi-sig functionality is coming. We're going to run it through a Gnosis safe. So you'll be able to do everything end to end on chain.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, this is something that OneHive, being able to do as much of the functionality on chain as possible has been definitely an emphasis of OneHive, particularly on the governance side. I think it's very interesting. I can tell. I mentioned to you how clean the UI looks. I think, but I didn't know that you had a background in UI. But that totally makes sense. It's quite easy to use. It's easy to access there. And I noticed I'm trying to get the the steward side up again. I'll enter the subdomain. But I'm curious about obviously you have a lot of integrations that are coming soon with all the different tools that people are already using in the DAO space, right?
So people are using right now, like we're kind of taking it to market slowly. So people are already using the ability to submit claims and attest to those. And right now we're kind of building all the functionality around that. So the ability to like activate the type of token that you'd like, and then we'll have like pre-set up tokens. We're going to allow people to build their own token into this. So it could be using like an ERC20 contract or any other contract. On Solana, which maybe is a little bit less relevant, but on Solana, there's an app called Cardinal, and it lets you basically build whatever type of NFT you want with whatever conditions you want, so that it's revocable, transferable, non-transferable, rented, whatever. And so we're looking. So unlock protocol is on Ethereum. Is this something similar that we're toying with? But the idea is basically to let anyone issue whatever token for whatever value that they'd like, whether it has financial value or not.
Okay, so it's not just non-transferables. I guess you're going to be able to do everything from within the app here.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to make it as extensible as possible. I think the integrations will be kind of driven by the use cases that we see. Mm-hmm. So like a reputation token for us is an infinitely inflationary token that has no fundamental underlying value. So it's purely just for signaling and superficial purposes. And the reason it's designed that way is because it's not meant to necessarily have utility beyond signaling. Whereas say a governance token, if you want to do like multi-token governance and have governance tokens be, so non-transferable governance tokens, be weighted against native tokens, well, you fix the supply of governance tokens and have them be rebase tokens, so that every day, based on the attestations that are logged on chain, those tokens readjust to the holders that have whatever proportion of reputation they have in the system, or whatever proportion of score they have in the system.
That's really interesting. That's very, very interesting. I wish Paul was here. I'm going to give my buddy from OneHive, who's thinks a lot about governance and liquidity, such things. The ability to link that non-transferable reputation with a transferable rebase token. Is that right?
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay. Is that?
I mean, we'd have to write the token contracts.
Right.
That wasn't exactly the case that I was describing,
okay.
But that is a possible case.
Can you repeat it back one more time? I heard, yeah.
Sure. So like, let's say you want to have two token governance. Yeah. So as far as I know, this isn't natively possible on Snapshot, for example, but on some governance platforms, like the Solana one, the SPL governance platform, you can have two tokens that can contribute to your voting power. So you can have those tokens be weighted differently. So you can say that, let's say you have 100 native tokens of your DAO, and you have, say, 50 like governance tokens or reputation tokens, depending on how you see it. You can apply a weight of the governance tokens. So if you have 50, it might be a multiple. So you'll say 50 times 100, or you basically set what the weight is for the governance tokens against the native tokens. So you can amplify them.
I got it. Interesting. And so tell me a little more about some of the use cases that you're seeing, the communities that are, testing out the Lighthouse app. I'm curious to learn a little more about the major touch points there that you find are most useful to people.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is that there's two types of communities. There's like communities that have been around for a while and kind of have some history. And then there are newer communities that, let's say, don't even have a token yet, right? So that's kind of the easier case in the sense that because there's no history, we don't have to like import reputation and start with some initial reputation that reflects, everyone's historic participation. So in a new DAO or in a new community, you can just activate attestations and just begin collecting claims and score those and decide to drop a token, whatever that token might be, to people in the future. So it's interesting because you can just use a reputation token and give yourself time to think about the tokenomics you want to have in a financial token, how that works, what type of utility you want, all these things. And so that case is fairly straightforward. But for a DAO that has history, the way that we go about it is a bit differently. So what we first try and do is understand what that DAO or community values. And it often happens that they value governance participation. And so what we have is these scripts that are able to basically extract all of the votes and proposal creations and the past proposals from Snapshot and from Realms. And then we basically pump that into an Excel spreadsheet, and we have an Excel model that maps out what those potential scores would look like if you were to score them in different ways. So you get to play around with what the result would be using governance as a base for bootstrapping reputation. And then once that's ready, then you can basically just bulk attest to all of this governance that's happened on Lighthouse, and that'll issue the initial reputation. And so we're going to do this we're doing it with governance. We're going to do it with like treasury payouts, for example, things that are kind of homogenous in terms of signaling value.
That is very cool. So building governance off of governance participation. You're saying for communities that have an existing token, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's cool. It's governance participation is definitely something that again is sort of echoing a bit of the conversation we had last hour. Is definitely an interesting challenge. And that we see these huge disparities between DAOs, right? I mean, if we're looking at Snapshot, some are going to have thousands and some only a few dozen voters for sure. So do you think that is sort of a growing trend with some of these, the DAOs that have been around for a while with an active token, is that they're really looking to energize their participation?
I think so. I think that this is a feeling. I don't know. This isn't like an objective statement or anything, but the feeling I get is that the more like most DAOs that we speak with understand that their participation is really low in terms of governance. But it's also a reflection of the people that are contributing the most to the DAO. So most DAO members or token holders won't actively contribute to governance because they're not actively involved in the project or in the community. And that's why it's a limited number of people. But the idea is basically, if you are actively participating in a community, then you should be rewarded in some way. But if you already airdropped or distributed a bunch of your tokens, you could still, of course, distribute financial value. But one way of remunerating people is by giving them increased power in governance.
Right, and it just it's something we talked through recently and been thinking about really since the bull market, is the idea of an airdrop of governance tokens to product users is an amazing way to promote your product and reward early adopters. But then obviously, as you mentioned, you depending on the proportion that's allocated, of course, you have you've locked in, you've assumed, or maybe locked in the assumption that that these users will also be interested in participating in shaping the protocol, right? Which in some cases is, and maybe is not the case. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that we've been trying to play with some theoretical models around this. So we sent out a tweet today. It's like a thread on the Lighthouse Twitter page. It talks about how you can break down value and what stakeholders look like. So we try to create this Venn diagram where one circle represents investors, one represents users, and one represents contributors. And when you create those overlaps, you get 7 distinct groups. And it's interesting to use that paradigm to think about who should get value, what incentivizes them, and how you can build a tokenomic model, multi-token or not, that actually distributes value and aligns the stakeholders in a better way.
You actually have this on screen here. I'd love to walk through a couple of these. I mean, if you'd like to explain for the audience here, and we're of course capturing this on video, so you can pull it out. Just some of these Venn diagrams are very helpful. I'm big on the visual aids here. If people aren't familiar, let me drop a link to the thread real quick here on the screen right now on YouTube.
Oh yeah. I think that's probably the most, the one that speaks the most.
The very first here.
Yeah, the one that's you see most valuable members, speculators, paid users. I think it's the one you're showing on YouTube right now. There's a slight lag, so I'm not. Yeah,
the latency. I'll stick with the first one here. We have investors, users, and contributors. Yeah.
Okay. So basically what we're trying to represent here is who are the groups that are actually participating in the community and what's the nature of those groups. So investors are basically token holders. Users are people using whatever the DAO is producing. So this is really, it's not in any way concrete. It can be a product like a DeFi protocol or a dApp. It can be services, it can be content, it could be media, it could be whatever. And then contributors are people that are contributing to the DAO, so creating content, building, whatever. And so if you look at the outer edges, if you take speculators, freelancers, and free users, those are people that are not engaged in the community in the same way as the people where in the center are, where the groups that have overlap between different circles, so like investor contributors. So if you're a contributor but you don't hold any tokens, then what are you really there for? You're kind of just there to make money. What you might want to optimize for is people that are really passionate about building in your community, in which case they would hold your token because they would want to participate in your community. In the same way, speculators are there to trade tokens. They're not using your product. They're not helping build anything. And this, unfortunately, is where a lot of early tokens go. And so it kind of misaligns the broader incentives, especially if you consider that the lifetime of a decentralized organization might be several decades, hopefully, or even longer, perhaps. And so it's unfortunate to distribute so much financial value at the outset just for the sake of justifying decentralization. At least that's my opinion.
Sure.
And then you have free users. So these are users that might be using your product or service without needing to acquire the token and benefiting from using the token to use your product or service. So maybe, I know this is like a bit Web 2, but you can think of it more like SaaS, where there's a freemium model for what DAOs produce. Some of the stuff they produce is free to use, and some of the stuff might be paid, and you use the native token to pay. So that's the distinction between free and paid users. But ideally, what you would want to do, and there's this last group called super fans, which is quite interesting. These are people that are contributing to the community, but aren't getting any value for their contributions. They're just like gung-ho about the product.
Great.
And these are people that you might want to integrate because they're expressing their willingness to participate in the community. And so that's a good group to focus on to bring them closer into the community. So there's kind of all these like user journeys or paths that you can create using this schema to think about how you can incentivize different actors that are participating in the community or around the community to create a stronger community.
And this is a really valuable graphic. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm sort of a nerd for visual aids, but I also think that there is just such a nice comprehensive set of variables and essentially demographics, right? Yeah, you can tell you guys have obviously spent, like I said, with the last 8 months doing that research. This is really cool. I'm definitely going to share this around. And for people who are, joining us, I know there's a few of you here still in the Discord. Definitely check out the link to the tweet that I posted in One Hive TV chat there. It'll take you straight to this thread. Make sure to follow Lighthouse Dao. And I'd be curious to hear if there's anybody, I know a number of you who are listening are either on the road or doing other things. But if you're able to drop a question or a comment about any of this, in particular this Venn diagram or the contentions here, I'm sure Pot Rock would be glad to tackle them. And I think that this helps to, even for the project that I'm involved with directly here, to think about these different demographics and where they fall inside the Venn diagram, and how to craft and utilize a tool like Lighthouse DAO to craft a reputation system that filters for what we really value most. It's hard. There's a very small number of people in that very center, right? So I guess, figuring out the right distribution of weights into these different categories. What are your thoughts on that? Have you had sort of have you walked different DAOs? Like, let's just say a DAO that is pre-launch. They don't have a token yet. They're thinking about how they want to, to leverage Lighthouse. What are some of these user groups or the parts of this Venn diagram that attract the most attention and conversation?
Well, I think the general idea is that the passionate builders part or biddlers part is the part that you're originally going to focus on when you're launching your DAO, because you may not have issued a token yet, so there's not really this concept of investor, and you don't really have usage yet. But the goal is to issue it or to release a token and to also use your own product eventually. And so most of the what we generally advise is to start with a reputation token, because it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. It's just a signal of the value that each person's creating. And so with founders, you might start with a reputation token. So between me and Sharon, who's my co-founder, we haven't issued a token yet, but we have the scoring system. And so when our first developer joined us, he integrated that scoring system. And as other people join the community, we try and integrate them into that scoring system so that in the future we can issue this non-transferable reputation token. And then when we issue a native token, that's when it'll expand into really like the whole idea of users and investors. So we'll get some free users that convert to paid users, some super fans that become contributors. And we try and build these dynamics as user journeys. So this is my UX background kind of speaking, but when you look at like a Web 2 app, there are five main user journeys in the application, and they're built around the whole concept of how Web 2 works. So it's called R. It's acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. And those are like, an acquisition campaign would be like running an ads campaign, getting someone to come on your site and create an account. Activation is getting them from account creation to using the app for the first time. Retention is making sure they come back regularly, and referral is them inviting other people. So here you have, this doesn't fit into that paradigm in the same way, but you can imagine creating a path for someone who is contributing to become a token holder. As a user that's contributing, becoming a token holder. What does that look like? What type of token do you want for that? Those are all like kind of like loose questions that every community kind of needs to answer for itself.
Yeah, totally. And I think it sounds like you have sort of a model that you suggest people adopt, that it more or less is like a template for perhaps new communities.
Yeah, I would see it that way. It's kind of, there's a scary part, right? When you have started something and then you begin to decentralize it, you kind of feel like you're losing control.
Mm-hmm.
At least from a human perspective or like a psychological perspective, it's not that easy,
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting to think about it in steps and take baby steps and work towards the decentralized organization.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I think we'll be again talking internally about how to use Lighthouse for our own, sort of adopt it for 1HTV and see how we like to use it for building reputation. We've experimented with a number of different options, and yeah, I think that this nicely captures both sort of the ease of the UI and the interaction, as well as the flexibility and so you can sort of customize different aspects of it to the needs of your specific enterprise, right? Yeah, I mean, I know we are coming up on the bottom of the hour here. I just want to make sure that people, remember to follow Lighthouse Dao _Dao on Twitter. And if you have any questions here for PodRock, please, you can raise your hand if you want to come up on stage here. You can drop them in the One Hive TV chat channel. I think we had, yes, if you're watching it all on YouTube, you can drop a question there. So, circling a little bit back to the go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask, like, you said you experimented with some reputation systems. I'm curious to know, like, what you learned from that experience and what your thoughts are about them, the ones that you tried.
Yeah, I mean, so we've done some with CoordNape and used it, I think, less as a reputation system, but more as a, sort of a part of a previous compensation scheme, but at the same time can see it as a means to sort of tabulate group, like group reputation. If you have it, I think, associated with the way we've run it, and we'll probably continue to run it for the near term, is that we have, weekly sync, and after we do a stand-up as a team, we'll more or less shift to CoordNape that same day, or if not during the meeting, to distribute the give on CoordNape. So it has like immediate human context, and I think there's some interesting trends there. I think we've learned a lot through doing the CoordNape side of things, but feel like there's just it's only capturing a part of the picture, right? And so we want to and have a more, in some ways, a more structured approach to like the things we really want to be doing, and then people who deliver the goods are receiving additional reputation for that work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that what you encountered with CoordNape is kind of it's something that a lot of reputations haven't necessarily accounted for. Is that they're built in somewhat of a generic way, right? Like you can give tokens to anyone, give tokens to anyone, but it doesn't necessarily account for like this whole idea of quality or reason, or what we would call an attestation.
Right. And can you describe a little more about that and the importance for it being on chain, just for folks here, and how Lighthouse does that differently?
Yeah, that's a very heavy topic. So it depends on what we mean by on chain. So clearly on chain is on a blockchain, right? But how it's logged on a blockchain can be really disparate. So like the easiest way to do it is just to take like text and write it into a transaction. And then you'll have the text visible to everyone publicly on chain. That's cool, but maybe you don't want to make it that public. So what's another mechanism for doing that? The way that we do it, at least for now, and I think this is maybe one of the intelligent ways of doing it, is to have the data stored off chain and store a Merkle tree hash of the data on chain, so that the transaction is verifiable to the parties that generated the data for the transaction and validated the transaction. So it stays kind of isolated within a community and is only interesting or relevant to the people that participated in that attestation. That doesn't mean you can't do it publicly. You can do that as well. Ideally, where we want to tend towards is letting people choose how they store attestations. So it can be publicly on-chain, hashed on-chain in the way that we're doing it, or in ZK. And if you do it in the middle way, so the hash on-chain, you should be able also to choose where your database lives, if it's on decentralized storage or centralized storage. And then in the further future would be to create like basically a smart contract that manages the permissions for the attestations, the underlying data of the attestations that you've participated in. You can make those public if you'd like to.
Yeah.
A good example of this is, imagine if you have a Web3 Spotify and you want a good recommendations algorithm. Well, if your listening data is on chain, maybe you'll actually want to share it with a third party so that they can build an algorithm specifically for you.
I got it. I know Billy's in the audience here, and Billy might be on the road or whatnot, but I'm sure if he is listening, he's probably interested and has burning questions, maybe for another day here. But he's on fire both as a communicator on the dev side of things, and thinking out how to use these primitives to other examples, like you've sort of described, the way this music listening or DAO governance. Very interesting here. I think that if I'm not mistaken, there are a number of different applications that DAO operators or contributors might be using that are also going to be available for integration in the Lighthouse app, whether it's Discord, GitHub, or some of these great protocol. I know this on Solana, right? So could you dig in a little bit on the integrations here and how you hope that will help to enhance the product and what it'll look like?
Yeah, totally. So we talked about forms and being able to set up whatever form you want. So we also expose an API. So if you want to automate attestations from a given source or add some filters to the source data, you can set that up and build whatever integration you want to generate an attestation automatically and even attribute a score automatically to it. So like some of the stuff that you've seen on the app, at least like the placeholder stuff, is like a Me6 Discord bot, or we were toying with like integrating Coordinape. And the idea is like you might already have interactions or data happening outside of your app, and all you'd like to do is bring it into Lighthouse, into the community's Lighthouse smart contract, and log that on chain. And so it's very flexible what you can do with it. You can get to Twitter. We use dwork internally, so our goal, we haven't done it yet, but we want to link dwork to Lighthouse so that we can get attestations when tasks are completed.
Very cool. Yeah, we actually have been thinking about moving over to dwork from Notion. I've heard good things.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's simple.
Well, it's great to use the Web3 native stuff when possible.
Yeah, totally. It's a good user experience, which is, I think, kind of rare.
Yeah, right on. It's familiar, and yet it has sort of the new features, like Web3 native features that they don't feel like a challenge to grasp. Very cool. Well, exactly. I really appreciate you joining us here today, Podrock, and I'd like to double back again after our the 1HTV teams had a chance to take a look at it, and I'm sure I have some questions for you on the admin side of things here, but it's really cool to see this as a tool that's available for folks that are particularly thinking about standing up a DAO and considering launching a token. As you said, this is a great tool for you to dig in, I think, beforehand, to think how you want to build reputation build reputation that will correspond perhaps with the token distribution to stakeholders that you value the most.
Monday at 4 p.m. UTC. we'll be doing a Twitter Spaces, and it's going to be really interesting because there's going to be a lot of people from different Solana projects, but also people from Ethereum projects. And the goal of this conversation is to basically have these Ethereum centric people kind of interact with these Solana people. Because what we found is that on Solana, because it's so new and there's not a lot built there, no one has any idea of all the history of Ethereum. They're kind of like running blind. And there's so much to learn from everything that has been built on Ethereum over the past like 5 or 6 years. And I think it's cool to have these like cross-chain discussions because I think it's enriching to everyone.
Absolutely. I'll look forward to that. And so 4 p.m. UTC, you said?
Yeah, 4 p.m.
Okay.
UTC. It'll be a Twitter Spaces, and we'll announce it on the Lighthouse Dao page, I think, tomorrow.
Cool. Everybody follow that Lighthouse_Dao on Twitter. We'll be on Space again next week, or on Spaces starting next week again, I hope as well. Sounds good, folks. Make sure to follow them up, check out the app, and have a great rest of your day and your week, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks to us. Bye, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. All right, I'm going to get Ghostman up here in just a second here to give us a walkthrough of Quests as well. So give me 1 second. We'll be right back. Ghostman, bring you up on stage here and we'll do a little tutorial walkthrough. Hey, Ghostman, how you doing, man? GM. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, you can hear well.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
All right. All good. So you want I show my screen?
So what we can
Or
do here...
you wanted to do by yourself?
Yeah, actually here on the stage, we don't have the share screen option. So if what we're doing though is we're broadcasting on YouTube. Yeah, I can show pretty much anything that you'd like there. And then what we can do is because it's broadcasting to YouTube, we can download the file at the end, cut it up, and pull it out maybe as a little tutorial walkthrough for people who are interested.
Got you. All right. So yeah, this is Quest.
So give me a little background, just a little bit, because you are the brains behind this, yeah? You and a few of the other developers here at OneHive?
Not yet. Right now, maybe, but not initially. At the start, we were a bunch of people from school, the same school. We had a collaboration with OneHive to build on that project, and will help us to initially had the idea is his own idea of Will, but we took the project. Felix integrate us in the community. So we were a bunch of people from the same school, and at a moment we split out, and I was the only one that continue on the development. So I want to absolutely release the Quest app, so that's why I stay there. And that's Quest today released and up and ready.
Right on, man. Well, it's a nice looking UI there, easy to use, and I wanted to present it to the audience here, and like I said, find a piece of reproducible content that we can share with people. So what is the premise? Like, what's the main idea, would you say, of the Quests app?
Yeah, the main idea is like make the developers or like people that can do tech projects. It can be marketing stuff and like contribute like content. People who can make content. And like those guys can meet the people that had the project ideas, but like in the way of a decentralized way, and no need to trust the people to be remunerated or so this is the whole main idea of Quest is for I don't know how to say that, but yeah, freelancers or stuff can be hooked with a project with people with ideas.
I got it. And so it has like a bit of an escrow aspect to it, right? Where somebody,
yeah. Yes, it worked like you have an open-ended contract with it's like the description of the quest is basically what the task is based on and what needs to be delivered and what's the remuneration. So all of that is included in the quest description, and anyone can take the quest and do it by itself and then submit the work when it's done, and the quest then pass a validation process. So if the work done does not meet the requirements in the description, then the quest is the claim is likely to be challenged by someone and then raised to Celeste. So the court can decide if yes or not the guy can have the bounty at the end.
I got it. So it's the same. Celeste is the same, backstop security mechanism for quests in the same way as it is for gardens. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
okay.
It's more granular than garden, I'd say, but in the opposite of gardens, the proposal, like you mean the proposal, right?
Right. It's like a security level, I guess, or layer for.
Yeah, but in the quest, in the case of quests, the reward is at the end of the work and not at the early begin.
Right.
So when you do a proposal, the honey is sent, or the other tokens in other gardens is sent at the beginning of the project, and it's I think it's different kind of scope. Proposal is for bigger projects, so quest can be used like really granularity, in a really small granularity.
Right, and this is where I was hoping to use it today, and we can actually do this up and the one we discussed, a small engagement reward for people that we can try to, maybe we can get the bounty up today, or the quest up today, and roll it out, and then just continue it next week when hopefully we'll be out on Twitter and be able to direct people to the app again. I'd really like to do it on a consistent basis. But if you're in the audience on YouTube, we're going to walk through how to create a quest. And Ghostman will give us some good advice along the way here. So I'm on the front of the UI, and it's pretty obvious there. If I click Create Quest, this is going to open up a modal that allows me to title it and then add a description, right?
Yeah. And in that model, at the first screen, you will see the description input as well as the title. There is like some tools to help you preview how the quest will be displayed. Like after you write the description, you can click on the eye icon just next to the description. And I think it's really important to firstly have a look at the tool, the question marks around the different concept of the app. It really helps to understand how the app works and what is the mechanism behind. So yeah, it pretty much shows what you have to include in the description, what's important, and yeah, it's kind of stuff. So yeah, after that, you can click next.
All right, I'm sorry, I was a little muted there. So before I move on here,
Okay.
you can, I'm sorry, that's my bad. So people can use, it's similar to Discourse, they can use certain, keyword inputs and to determine font size and all of that. But
yeah, it supports Markdown now.
Got
it's
it.
Markdown in behind, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So that's clear. And but so in the quest will contain a specific amount of locked collateral, right? And in this case, we're setting something up that can be, in other words, each quest can be claimed by multiple people, correct? Like you don't have to create a new quest for each bounty.
No, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So before we go on, I just want to give people the rundown here. You can probably see it if you're watching on YouTube, but it's going to be a 2-step quest that we're going to do for the Monday show here on 1HTV. We're going to have one step, which is going to encourage people to leave a question or a comment about the day's show in the 1HTV chat channel, okay, or in the One Hive Discord. And then the step 2 will be to simply add the link, like the proof that you left a comment, when you go to claim the quest itself. You'll simply leave the link to the comment that you left, and we'll incentivize this with, like, I guess here 0.1 honey. And so this will be live here in a moment, and if anybody here in the audience is interested in claiming this quest, then we can do it front to back here. I'm going to click next, and I just need to enter a little bit of additional information here, right? Including you choose the tokens, and so you can choose, there are 4 different tokens on Gnosis chain that are possible. Is that right?
Yeah, like you just have to put the address, and the token will be fetched, and it will be usable. Like if you want to use any other token than the proposed there, you just have to pass the contract address of the token.
Okay, all right. And if I want, so I'll go back really quick to the previous modal here. If I say, if I'm creating this quest and the claimable price is 0.1, what does that mean exactly? If you're the user and you come here and you say the claimable price is 1, is that how much the user can receive for doing the quest?
Yeah, exactly. And they specify that you that the mechanism for validation is not on-chain, it's a human validation by people challenging the quest if the claimer does not respect the description. And when you challenge the quest, you're incentivized to do it, because you can steal the deposit of the like we call the player, the people who do the quest. So yeah, each time someone want to claim the reward of the quest, he has to deposit some, like it's 0.1 honey right now. It's a deposit that will be locked until the claim passed. But if he's challenged and the challenge is successfully accepted by a Celeste court, the challenger will steal the deposit. So you have to, as a player, make sure you follow the description and you met all the requirements for the deliverables and stuff. Otherwise, it's likely you will be that you will be challenged by someone, and anyone can challenge.
Okay. All right. I got it. So okay. And so then as an admin on the existing modal that I have, I've just selected the token. We're going to use honey. And the initial funding amount is the total amount of honey that then will be loaded into the contract, correct?
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. So in this
case, you can do it on the two. Oh, sorry. You can do it on 2 separate steps. Like you can create a quest, put 0 as initial funding, and fund it after. There is no difference, but you can do it like it's just a sugar.
I got it. Okay. And the expiration time we talked about, for example, for this quest, I want to be able to do it weekly. Should I just set the expiration for several weeks from now? Because as you said, the execution will be manually anyways, right?
Yeah, you better put the expiration time like maybe in a year. You can do whatever you want, but like or maybe like 2 months. Like as a copilot project, you can test it for 2 months, and then the remaining funds will be reclaimable. That's the whole point of the
Cool.
expiration. The amount, the funding of the quest is locked until the quest is expired.
I got it. Okay. All right. So I got this going for 2 months here. It probably won't last that long, but we'll see. And I appreciate that, though. I get it. As if it expires and you can reclaim the funds. And at the bottom here, it does read the total balance as well as the deposit balance. So right now, I select the token, the total amount I want to deposit, expiration time, and then of course it has this. I guess this is the address you've connected with. And I can
yeah, and you can change it to set it like the Oni the one Hive bounty pool. You can set it whatever you want, and this is safe to reclaim the funds at the end, and the funds will be sent to that address.
Oh, so the return is automated.
It's not automated. You have to click on a button, but it will automatically send. Like you can't specify the address at that moment. It's only at the quest the creation of the quest.
I got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Okay, so I think everything's in order here. I'm going to click create and go through a couple transactions here in the wallet. And these are all depositing into the contract, the creation of the contract and the deposits. Yeah, I think there are 3 total.
3 if you specify an initial amount. Otherwise, it's 2.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also a creation deposit here, and it was required at some point because it's to prevent spamming, prevent spamming from people to let the quest usable.
I got it. Yeah, you always got to be concerned about that with crypto, right? Well, with anything, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm on the 3rd confirmation here. I think it's sending the funds, and then this should be ready for people to test out here.
Yeah, the quest's already there.
Cool. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give people who are here in the Discord, or if I'm not sure if there's folks on YouTube at the moment, but if there's anybody who is watching this, and I'm gonna I guess I can drop a link to this individual quest, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna drop this in One Hive TV, and if you're already on the Quest homepage, you'll see it towards the top. 1HTV live engagement quest. So give it a shot if you'd like to. It'll stay open for 24 hours. Like essentially any submissions that I get in the next 24 hours will be eligible for this. And it's simply a matter of leaving a question or comment about today's show in the chat channel, just to see, give it a shot, try it out, see if anybody has anything they'd like to contribute. But I know it's almost to the top of the hour here. So that's super cool, man. Really easy to use. I love it.
Yeah, maybe we can show the model for claiming the quest to just explain some points, because it's a kind of a tricky one. Oh yeah, can you open it? Like the models for claiming a quest on the bottom of a quest. Like,
here we go.
Go to the quest just created. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot that there is a delay with the YouTube video.
Oh yeah. There's a little bit of latency there. So I changed wallets here, and now, yeah, folks, if you're watching, you go down to the bottom and you can click claim. Okay, what do I do now?
So here you are. You can include the evidence of completion. So right now the quest will require to put a link through your questions in the Discord of One Hive TV, and that's it. Next, and when you do next, you just have to provide the amount you want to claim in like you have to met the description requirement for the price. But yeah, here you can specify that 0.5. Yeah. So
let's say
that's
that a
it.
user,
And if you
let's say a user says they want to claim more than the amount, you can just deny this, yes, on the admin side or the other side, or
yeah, you can not on admin side, but
okay.
yeah, we still can veto. We will try not to use it, but at some specific case, we might have to. But usually they're supposed to let the community challenge the quest.
Celeste, right?
As a creator, you are part of the validation team. You can challenge the claim during the delay if it does not met the claim requirements.
Okay, got it. So now in this case, I don't think that I can claim it because I need to have a certain amount of collateral to begin with, right? In Honey, is that correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So this is important to note, folks, if you're using this or if you're consider rolling out a quest, it's important to share, for example, people who would claim this would need to have a little bit of Honey in their wallet to begin with. And at this point in the market, I think that this is like about $5 worth of Honey. But give me a second and I'll send over a balance to this wallet just real quick, and then we can complete the claiming. What do you think?
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, give me a second. Send a little Honey over to the other wallet address. Let's see if we can claim. I'm sure we.
You can even claim 0 if you don't want to
I see.
pull
Commit
money
the
from the bounty.
Okay. I'm gonna do it the whole thing. It's almost there. I think it should be good now. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm just gonna refresh the page here. We'll claim the quest. I'm gonna drop my. I don't think that's the link. Let me grab the link again. Here we go. Message link. Paste it up in there. Go to next. I'm going to claim the amount that it said, which is 0.05, folks. And I should have, the amount of collateral here. You can also leave some contact information, which I think is I like that extra little option there, in case people want to.
Yeah, if you want to talk about reasons or argues about your anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want, people can reach you to argues on your claim, and you probably better specify the contact information.
Sure. And how long is the claim window, or between the time of the submission here and
Yeah, right now it's specified for 7 days. It's configurable runtime, so we can change it. We always can change it. In RingKB, it's 5 minutes, but yeah, it's 7 days, so you have plenty of times to be validated for your claim. Usually, it will be the quest creator that do that stuff, but like anyone, as I said, anyone can challenge. So
very cool. And here it is. It appears right here beneath the what shows the list of claims on the specific quest.
Yeah, there is a timer of 7 days that just begins.
So now if I wanted to validate this claim, where would I find the link that I shared to my comment, for example?
Maybe it's not clear enough, but you can expand the claim with the left button.
There it is.
Yeah, maybe we can make it more specified.
There it is. I got it on the graph. Okay. See right there. Here's the link to.
But
my comment.
Yeah, maybe you'll have to refresh the page to see actually the markdown rendered. It's kind of an issue right now that the IPFS does not like register the link fast enough, so we are redirecting it to the IPFS document. But if you refresh the page, you will be able to see it.
I got it. Well, and in this case, for this specific implementation, I know where to find the link here, and so I could sort of validate it if I wanted to, easily. Very cool, man. I really like this, and as sort of an ESCO primitive, and we're going to do this. We'll do this today. So, folks, again, if there's anybody here on the Discord that wants to take a look here, you can go ahead and follow the exact steps that were shown on YouTube and claim your 0.05, honey, if you've left a comment here today. And I know Billy is a shoe-in. I tell you what, if folks want to leave a little note, they're welcome to do that. Again, here for a Gardens Analytic dashboard. Is that right?
Yeah, it's one of the use case that could happen. You cut a little bit, so I'm not sure to understand what you just said, but I think I have the whole idea.
It's all good, man. I really appreciate you hopping on here. I'll be happy to continue to promo the Quests app here, and it's always great to see new stuff being built by OneHive. And I think we should get a little tutorial video together for this too, perhaps, if we have time. Very cool, man.
Yeah, all right. That's cool.
All right, so I don't want to hold you much longer. I know we just crossed the top of the hour here. I'm going to let you go, Gossman and Gossman, and everybody else, GM, for joining us today for the show. I know I've been going for a while here, but hope everybody has a good rest of their Monday and a good rest of the week here.
Thank you.
GM, everybody. Take care.
Take care.